Hey, welcome back to Donald Miller's Electrical Services. I might as well make another video because I have a couple different things to talk about today. So I want to talk about realtors and knob and tube wiring. And this is more for, I guess, if you're selling your home and it has knob and tube, or if you're buying your home and it has knob and tube. So knob and tube wiring is starting to come up more and more on real estate transactions. You actually have to disclose it if you are selling your home. Okay, you have to disclose if you knowingly have knob and tube. And that's where this gray area comes in. And I think the buyer needs to understand this. And I think the seller, you should have a conscience here. And if you know you have knob and tube, you should state it. All right, especially if you know. All right. I'm seeing a lot of knob and tube not disclosed, but when you go through the evaluation, there's no way they didn't know. You just find it. You find like the kitchen is actively tapped into it, or they purposely hid it. There's a couple of electrical companies that'll hide knob and tube in the basement so it's sight unseen. They had to be hired to do that, so in a disclosure letter or on your disclosure, you should be disclosing you still have a knob and tube. But they don't, and a lot of it is knowingly they're not, because they don't want to take that hit on the sale of the home. And buyers, up until recently, buyers had to be very diligent about finding this stuff, because realtors, if they're representing you as a buyer, sometimes they would ignore it to get the sale of the house. Okay, and they'll deny it all they want, but when I go and I do a knob and tube evaluation and the buyer is there as well as the buyer's agent there, you can tell if the agent is frustrated with the electrician for finding the knob and tube. And he shouldn't be frustrated. He should actually be grateful. If he was looking out for the well-being of the buyer, he should be grateful that we're finding. I've literally had realtors disgusted the fact that I found it. And it was all because now they don't get the sale of the house, they gotta work more, blah, blah, blah. But it's your due diligence to represent the buyer. You should be an active participant in trying to find the best deal for the buyer, as much as the seller is trying to get as much money for the seller. You should be you should be representing the buyer and trying to, if that house is messed up or if that house has a lot of knob and tube, you should be ready to bat for them, okay? And not in a manner that, as if it's extra work for you. This is your job. Knob and tube is dangerous, okay? If your personal opinion is that it's not dangerous, maybe you should keep that to yourself, okay? Because that's just your personal opinion. It's not fact, all right? The fact is knob and tube is dangerous, especially with the amount of knuckleheads we have on there working on it that don't have a clue on how to properly work on knob and tube. That's where, if you're a buyer or if you're a seller, I work with some very good realtors out of Berwyn, Pennsylvania, that are educated with knob and tube. They know exactly what's going on. They know how to either give a credit for it or have it remediated, depending on the damage of it, depending on the circumstances. Not every rewire is a rewire. Sometimes, depending on the value of the house, you can sell it as is if the buyer accepts it's there, and the value of the house is so great that it doesn't matter it has knob and tube or not. Now, insurance is a different story, because you might not be able to get insurance at all for that much of the higher the value of the house, the harder it is going to be to get insurance for it, and it's going to cost a lot more the moment. And if it's in the disclosure that there's knob and tube, you basically have to tell your insurance agent that there's knob and tube, and then they're going to form a policy based on that, okay? And it's not going to be cheap. All right, these are all things that to be considered when you're buying a home or you're selling. If you have knob and tube in your house and you're selling it, the best thing to do is either rewire it piecemeal in the wintertime when an electrician is slow, okay, and he can come in and he can rewire it maybe at a discounted rate, or move out and go on vacation and let an electrician get in there and prep, obviously, before you leave. Let him get in there and rewire the whole thing. Boom, done. That way you can sell the house and you have a guarantee of remediation. If your house is built before 1930, you should expect either knob and tube or a guaranteed remediation. Because if you don't have a guaranteed remediation, then I can almost guarantee you that there's still knob and tube in the home. All right, I don't care what a realtor says. I don't care what the homeowner says. No one admits to having knob and tube unless it's blatantly obvious in the basement. If it's not blatantly obvious, 9 times out of 10, they try to say they don't have it. And unless you have a remediation letter, I can usually find it. I can usually find it within about 30 minutes. All right, there's a couple areas that are too difficult to fake. There's too difficult to rewire. I do catch some handymen every now and then pulling some really shady stuff. But even then, they can't hide it completely. There's always areas to find it. Okay, there's always telltale signs. All right. So if you're a buyer, all right, your agent should be, if he doesn't understand how to interpret knob and tube, what he should be doing is either going for a credit and taking it off the value of the house. Okay, that's usually the best way for a buyer to remediate knob and tube is to get a credit, allow them to hire the electrician they want to hire. That way, the quality of the work is based on the buyer. You don't want the quality of the work based on the seller, because the seller is going to hire the lowest bid guy in there. And if you have a beautiful plaster home and you have a low bid knob and tube rewire, they're going to destroy the plaster and then put like one time up or like this stuff called patch and paint. And what it is, it's a lightweight joint compound, but you just destroyed this beautiful plaster and you're putting some aftermarket junk up and putting a coat of paint on it and hiding it. Again, it gets into that lipstick and makeup category. Because if you when you deal with plaster, if you repair it correctly, the wall's gorgeous inside and out. It's not just the surface that looks good, but through and through, strong, integrity, it's good, it's quality, okay? You put like one time or patch and paint, it looks pretty as can be, but underneath is all messed up. It's a completely different house than it was before the rewire. So as the responsibility of the buyer should want to be able to hire the electrician they want to have based on the quality that the electrician is going to do. Okay, and it should be written out in his contract, not just that he's remediating the knob and tube, but the methods of how he's remediating it, how he's patching it, how he's doing his floor protection, and how he's wiping up after he's done, because you still have lead to deal with, and there's always lead exposure with a knob and tube rewire. So you still have these 4 other areas that you need to make sure are taken care of correctly. All right, if you're dealing with just if the seller hires an electrician, you get a guy in there that's just rewiring the knob and tube and his estimate is very primitive, he's going to do some weird stuff to get that knob and tube rewired. And you might not even get a letter of guarantee of remediation. He might line item estimate the knob and tube rewire, which basically means he's going to line item per room everything he's doing to remove the knob and tube. But that doesn't guarantee the rewire. You want to guarantee a remediation that no matter where, no matter what happens in that house, there is no active knob and tube. And a line item estimate does not guarantee that. All right, so you want a remediation letter guaranteeing the rewire of the home. You want to be able to pick who does it. That way you can understand and you know what type of patchwork is going to get done. You can control the quality. All right, a seller, if you're selling a house with knob and tube, obviously you already know you have knob and tube, all right? And yes, you can do it yourself, piecemeal through the winter. You can sometimes, if it's a big home, it might be better that you just give the credit and you run away. That way you don't have to deal with the knob and tube. You don't have to deal with the dust. You don't have to deal with anything. You literally just take the hit. I know you're gonna take a little bit of a hit on the house, but you're done. You're scot-free. And usually when it's a knob and tube rewire, the other things kind of wash away because you're giving that much of a credit to the house that it's usually pretty much sold. The buyer loves it because he's getting a house guaranteed rewire. So you have that old world character with new world technology. that this is just getting into real estate within the last couple of years. And yes, it's going to get worse. This is the beginning. We're going to have insurance companies that are just going to either charge out the wazoo for insurance, or it's going to come down to a point where the knob and tube has to be rewired during the sale of the house. It's coming. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I've been specializing in knob and tube since 2008, so 10 years. I've been a master electrician since 2003. And, in 08, I would probably do, 5 to 6 rewires a year. Fairly large rewires, but 5 or 6, not that many. And 2012, after around 2012, it like doubled and tripled. Right now, when the real estate market gets going, we're rewiring knob and tube nonstop. We might have 2 or 3 rewires going at the same time. And that's just the way it's going right now. The worst thing you can do, though, is not do your due diligence. If you're a buyer and you're buying a house with knob and tube, or you're selling a house, and you can even be the seller and you're selling the house with knob and tube, you want to make sure all 4 areas are covered. Floor preparation, obviously the rewire correctly, okay? The patchwork and the cleanup, okay? Because if you're selling a house and you get a guy that butchers that rewire, okay, that buyer might walk away. If it's that bad, why wouldn't he? If I was buying a knob and tube home and the seller was going to remediate the knob and tube, and I walk in and all the plaster walls have been destroyed and they used like patch and paint or something, or you can obviously tell the plaster quality is shot and that's why you bought the house, I would run. I wouldn't buy that house. The house is Swiss cheese with a little bit of lipstick and makeup on it. That's all that is. I'm not saying that if you patch a hole correctly, I guess you could use one time. I know one guy that does, and he does quality work, but I would rather just stick to the genuine quality of the past, the nice plaster patching. It's how I was brought up, it's how I was trained, and it's how my houses look gorgeous. When I'm done rewiring, I give a guarantee remediation letter, the whole 9. And, for the buyers that I represent, they love it. If I do their rewire, they walk into a spot-free house and they're in awe of how clean the house is after everything that we went through. Because that week is a rough week. It sometimes takes us 7 to 10 days to rewire, and it can get messy. But at the end of the rewire, it's gorgeous, it's spotless, everything, the windowsills, the trims, the door frames, the whole house has been wiped down multiple times. All right, that's part of our service that we provide. Sorry about that, son. We try to provide the best service that we can. All right, that's a rewire. That's just what we do. We're not going to let you come into a house and it be dirty and dusty because we rewired it. It just looks poorly on our part. But that's the difference between a good rewire and a bad rewire. Bad rewire, I walked into a rewire this past March, okay, and there was a couple electricians doing it, and they were bringing like their bed sheets from home and trying to use that as drop cloths. So I went downstairs in the living room, and there was a layer of dust on all the woman's ornaments, and she had all these little figurines, all the I don't know what they're called, they're the ones that are expensive. I forget, Hummels. There was a layer of dust, and it's not even like a white dust, it's like a gray dust from the plaster. It was utterly, I couldn't believe it. Like, I literally had to pull the guy aside because he was a friend of mine, and I told him, you have to stop. Like, you have to stop immediately. I told him, I literally made him go to Home Depot and get every different cleaning supply possible, and I told him to get a helper in here, start cleaning the whole house. Like, the amount of cleaning that needed to be done to that house, if the owner ever realizes how bad that dust is and how it can get you sick. If that gets into your heating system and now you're just pushing it all through your house, it can really mess you up. But I don't know what happened. I left. I was in awe. There was a layer of dust over the entire home, and I just felt bad for the homeowner. that they had to put up with that more than anything. Like the electrician's telling the homeowner that they're doing quality work and they're great and this and that. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, you are out of your mind. How can you say this is good work? But I guess you got to sell what you do. You know, you gotta. If it's a turd, you got to polish a turd, and that's kind of what it was. He was selling a polished turd. But my rewires aren't like that. I videotape my rewires from the beginning to the end. You see the mess, you see the cleanup, and you see the effort we go through to make it the best rewire we can make it. So I ran off a little bit on that one. But thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe. God bless, take care, and watch out for yourself out there. Make sure you know what's going on. Don't let these guys take advantage of you. Don't let these hacks in your house. If you're willing to invest money in your home, make sure you invest it wisely. Don't just let anyone come into your home because they say they know what they're doing. Be careful out there, because there are some ruthless people out here that'll give you a smile, and the moment you turn your back, they're just doing things that it's the construction trade. We don't have any educated, we don't have a program of training anymore. Like, there's no apprenticeship. These guys are like barely learning theory in any way. They're jumping all over the place, learning nothing. They're learning how to milk an 8-hour day more than anything. All right, and it's a shame. Like, there's no pride in their work. Like some of these younger generation, I'm like, don't you care about what you do? Like, does it make you like? They don't care. They care about their paycheck. They care about their iPhone. They care about everything but the quality of the work that they're giving. It's truly amazing. They care about how fast they can get something done, let alone, like, I understand we all want to be efficient, but fast and efficiency are two totally different things. Efficiency is providing the best quality you can do and then focusing on the time it takes for it to do it. Being fast it's like just slapping it together. That's being fast. That's not efficiency. That's just a hack. You just turned into a hack. All right, well, I went off again. God bless. Take care. Look out for yourself and just do your due diligence. Educate yourself. Call me if you have any questions. I have no problem answering questions about this. I've been specializing in knob and tube long enough that it's in my blood. It's my passion. I love it. I have no problem figuring it out. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.